A millionaire reunites with his first love and is stunned by the truth she kept. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from today? Please drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to the main character. The late afternoon sun hangs low over the quiet streets of a small Midwestern town, casting long shadows across cracked sidewalks and familiar storefronts that time seems to have forgotten. A black luxury sedan slows near the curb, its engine humming softly, out of place among the pickup trucks and faded bicycles locked to old iron rails. Inside the car sits Ethan Walker, a self-made millionaire who has not returned here in more than 15 years. To the world, Ethan is now a successful investor, the kind of man whose name appears in business magazines and conference guest lists. But the moment his eyes lift toward the corner grocery store across the street, none of that matters. Because standing there, just beyond the glass door, is Emily Carter. She is wearing a simple cotton dress and flat shoes, her hair tied back the same practical way she always wore it in high school. She is counting change at the register, her movements careful and unhurried, as if life has taught her to measure every second and every dollar. Ethan's breath catches. This is not how he imagined seeing her again. In his mind, Emily was supposed to be different now, married perhaps, confident, changed by time, by other men, by a world that never waits. That was the version he had quietly prepared himself to face. Instead, she looks almost exactly like the girl who once sat beside him on a broken wooden fence, swinging her legs and talking about dreams neither of them could afford. Ethan opens the car door and steps out onto the pavement. The air smells like dust and warm asphalt. For a brief moment, he considers getting back inside, telling himself that some memories are better left untouched. But his feet move before his thoughts can stop them. The bell above the grocery store door rings as he walks in. Emily looks up. Her eyes widen, just slightly, and the coins in her hand freeze mid-count. There is a long, fragile second where neither of them speaks. "Ethan," she says softly, as if saying his name too loudly might cause him to disappear. "Hi, Emily," he replies, his voice steadier than he feels. Up close, he notices the small details, the faint line of worry between her brows, the way her hands tremble, just a little, before she sets the coins down. She smiles, polite but cautious, the smile of someone who has learned not to expect too much from surprises. "I did not know you were back in town," she says. "I just arrived," Ethan answers. "I was passing through." It is a lie, and they both seem to know it. Outside, the sedan waits silently, a reminder of how far Ethan has traveled from this place. Inside, Emily stands behind a counter she has likely stood behind for years. The distance between them is no more than a few feet, but the space between their lives feels impossibly wide. And as Ethan looks at the woman he once loved, he has no idea that the truth she has quietly carried all these years is about to shatter every assumption he has ever made about her. Emily finishes counting the change and slides the cash drawer shut with a soft click that sounds louder than it should. Ethan is still standing there, just beyond the counter, his presence filling the small grocery store in a way that makes the air feel heavier. For a moment, she wonders if this is only a trick of memory. If she blinks, maybe he will be gone. But he does not disappear. "Are you working here now?" he asks gently, as if afraid the question itself might offend her. Emily nods. "Yes, I have been here for a while." She does not add that a while means nearly 10 years. She does not say that this store has seen her through winters when the heat barely worked, and summers when the ceiling fan only pushed warm air around. She does not explain that this counter has been the quiet witness to her entire adult life. Ethan glances around, taking in the narrow aisles, the handwritten price signs, the old refrigerator humming in the corner. He looks thoughtful, but there is something else there too, something unspoken. Emily notices it immediately. She has grown used to that look. It is the look people get when they realize she never left. After Ethan pays for a bottle of water he does not seem to need, Emily steps outside for her short break. The sun is lower now, brushing the town in amber light. She sits on the worn bench beside the store, the same one she used to sit on after school when she was 17, and dreaming of a future that felt endless back then. Ethan joins her, keeping a careful distance. "So," he says, after a pause, "how have you been?" Emily gives a small smile. "I am fine." It is the answer she always gives, not because it is entirely true, but because it is simple, and simple answers keep people from asking deeper questions. Her life is quiet. She wakes up early, walks to work, eats dinner alone most nights, and goes to sleep with the radio playing softly so the apartment does not feel too empty. She has friends, acquaintances, familiar faces, but no one who truly knows her, and that is by design. In a town like this, people talk. They talk about why a woman her age is still alone. They talk about what must be wrong with her, what choices she must have made, what mistakes she must be hiding. Emily has learned to carry those whispers without reacting. Ethan, however, does not know this version of her. He remembers the girl who laughed easily, who talked about leaving town, who believed love would come once and stay forever. He assumes time must have changed her, that life must have pulled her in directions he cannot see, and Emily senses that assumption settling between them, quiet but heavy. She folds her hands in her lap, fingers tightening slightly. What Ethan does not know is that when he left all those years ago, something in her stopped moving forward, not because she was weak, not because she was afraid, but because she had loved him once with her whole heart, and she had promised herself she would not give that part of herself away lightly again. Staying was not an accident. It was a choice she has never explained to anyone. As Ethan talks about business trips and cities she has only seen on postcards, Emily listens and nods. She does not interrupt. She does not compare. She simply wonders how long it will be before he decides that she is a story best left in the past. And she braces herself, quietly, for the moment when he looks at her life and assumes he understands it. Because she knows that if the truth ever comes out, it will not change how others see her. It will only change how he sees himself. Emily does not tell Ethan that she still keeps the old box. It sits on the top shelf of her closet, pushed behind winter coats and a spare blanket she never uses. The cardboard is worn at the corners, softened by time and careful hands. Inside are small things that would mean nothing to anyone else, but to her, they are everything. That evening, after her shift ends, Emily walks home alone. The air has cooled, and the cicadas hum softly in the trees lining the street. Her apartment is only 6 blocks away, a modest one-bedroom above a closed-down hardware store. The stairs creak under her feet as she unlocks the door and steps inside. The space is quiet, clean, and simple. She sets her keys on the table and exhales, the tension of the day finally settling into her shoulders. Seeing Ethan again has stirred something she thought she had learned to keep buried. Not pain exactly, something deeper, something unfinished. Emily changes into an old sweater and sits on the edge of her bed. After a moment of hesitation, she reaches into the closet and pulls the box down. She opens it slowly. On top lies a folded piece of paper, yellowed and thin. It is a letter Ethan wrote when they were 18, before he left town. The ink is faded, but she knows every word by heart. Promises of coming back. Promises of never forgetting. Promises made by a boy who believed the world would wait. Beneath the letter is a small silver bracelet. He gave it to her the night they said goodbye, standing by his father's truck under a sky full of stars. He had clasped it around her wrist with shaking fingers and told her to keep it until he returned. Emily lifts the bracelet now, letting it rest in her palm. She never stopped wearing it. She only learned to hide it beneath long sleeves. There are other things in the box. A photograph of the two of them at the county fair, faces flushed and smiling, arms slung around each other like nothing could ever pull them apart. A pressed wildflower from the field behind her parents' house. A ticket stub from a movie they snuck into because they did not have enough money for 2. Each item is a memory frozen in time. Emily closes the box and slides it back into place. She knows what it looks like from the outside. A woman who stayed. A woman who never moved on. But what no one sees is the discipline it took to protect her heart in a world that expected her to give it away easily. What no one understands is that waiting was never about Ethan coming back rich or successful. It was about staying true to who she was. The next morning, Emily arrives at work early. She wipes down the counter, arranges the shelves, and prepares herself for a normal day. But normal never comes. The bell above the door rings, and Ethan steps inside again. This time, he does not look like a man passing through. He looks like someone who has decided to stay. "I was wondering," he says, approaching the counter. "Would you like to have dinner with me tonight?" Emily hesitates, just for a second. "Yes," she says quietly. "That would be fine." They choose a small diner on the edge of town, the kind of place where the menu has not changed in decades. Ethan talks about his work, his travels, the meetings that fill his days. Emily listens, asking polite questions, smiling at the right moments. What she does not tell him is that every story he shares only reminds her how different their lives have become. Ethan, meanwhile, watches her closely. He notices how she never checks her phone, how she pays in cash, how she speaks kindly to the waitress, as if they share an unspoken understanding. He begins to form conclusions without realizing it. He assumes her life must be small, limited, defined by what she did not have. And Emily, sensing his thoughts without hearing them, keeps her secrets close. Because the truth she carries was never meant to impress anyone. It was meant to protect her soul. And when it finally comes to light, it will not be a gift. It will be a reckoning. Dinner becomes the first of many small moments Ethan did not plan for. After that night at the diner, he begins finding reasons to see Emily again. A walk past the old high school, a cup of coffee before her shift, a drive down the road that leads nowhere special, but feels familiar. Emily agrees each time, though she never initiates. She lets Ethan set the pace, lets him believe these meetings are casual, unimportant. Inside, however, she feels the careful balance she has built over years beginning to tilt. On a quiet Saturday morning, they walk through the town park. Children run past them, their laughter echoing across the grass. Ethan talks about his life in the city, about boardrooms and deadlines, about how everything moves fast and never slows down long enough to breathe. Emily listens, her hands folded loosely in front of her. She tells him about her routine, about opening the store early, about knowing which customers will pay an exact change, and which ones will need time, about the comfort of predictability. Ethan nods, but his mind fills in gaps she never speaks aloud. He assumes her life became small because she lacked opportunity. He assumes she must have settled. And without meaning to, he assumes she must have loved others after him. The idea feels logical to him, almost comforting. It explains why she stayed. It explains why she seems guarded. It explains why she never asks about his personal life. One afternoon, Ethan offers to drive Emily home. She hesitates, then agrees. The car is immaculate, the leather seats still smelling new. As she settles in, she keeps her hands in her lap, careful not to touch anything unnecessarily. "You got used to this kind of life quickly," she says lightly. Ethan smiles. "It was a long road, but yes, I suppose I did." He waits for her to ask more, about money, about success, about what it feels like to win. She does not. The silence unsettles him. At a red light, he glances at her. "Did you ever think about leaving?" Emily looks out the window at the passing storefronts. "I did." "What stopped you?" She turns back to him, her expression calm. "Some things are worth staying for." Ethan takes that answer at face value, assuming it means family, fear, or lack of ambition. He does not imagine that she might be talking about love. That night, alone in his hotel room, Ethan scrolls through emails but finds himself distracted. His thoughts return to Emily, to the simplicity of her life, to the quiet way she listens without asking for anything. And slowly, without realizing it, he begins to feel superior, not cruelly, not consciously, but in the subtle way success sometimes reshapes perception. He tells himself he could help her, open doors, offer opportunities, lift her out of a life that must feel limiting. When he mentions this idea a few days later, Emily stiffens. "I do not need to be rescued," she says gently. Ethan laughs, trying to soften the moment. "I did not mean it like that." But something has shifted. Emily feels it immediately. She sees the unspoken assumption forming behind his eyes. The belief that her choices were made because she had no better ones. That her solitude must mean something went wrong. She does not correct him. Instead, she grows more careful with her words, more selective with her smiles. She allows moments of closeness, but never enough to let him forget there is distance between them. Ethan mistakes this restraint for mystery. He tells himself she must be hiding a complicated past, a string of relationships, regrets she does not want to name. And because he believes this, he never asks the one question that matters. As the days pass, their connection deepens on the surface. They share meals, memories, laughter that surprises them both. But beneath it all, a quiet misunderstanding takes root. Emily is protecting a truth she has carried alone for years. And Ethan, convinced he already understands her, is walking steadily toward a revelation he is not prepared to face. By the second week, being with Emily no longer feels like a coincidence to Ethan. It feels intentional. He begins rearranging his schedule around her hours at the store, declining calls, postponing meetings, telling himself it is temporary, just a pause, just a visit. But the truth is quieter and harder to admit. He enjoys who he is when he is with her. They start sharing dinners that stretch late into the evening. Sometimes they eat at the diner. Other times they sit on the hood of his car outside town, watching the sky darken as crickets fill the silence. Emily talks more now, though still carefully. She laughs at stories from their childhood, reminds him of teachers he forgot, moments he left behind. For brief stretches of time, the distance between their lives seems to shrink. Ethan finds himself reaching for her hand once, without thinking. Emily allows it. Her fingers rest in his, warm and steady, but she does not lean closer. She does not cross the invisible line. The restraint confuses him. In the city, interest is loud, direct, physical. Here, everything feels measured, deliberate. "You are different," he says one evening, watching her trace circles on the tabletop with her finger. Emily looks up. "Different how?" "Most people would ask more questions," he answers. "About my life, about what I do." She smiles softly. "I already know who you are." He assumes she means his success, his reputation, his wealth. He does not realize she means the boy he used to be. As the days pass, Ethan begins to feel something unfamiliar: peace. There is no pressure with Emily, no expectations, no performance. She never asks for gifts, never hints at wanting more. When he offers to pay for meals, she insists on splitting the check. When he suggests upgrading plans, she gently declines. "I like things the way they are," she tells him. To Ethan, this feels both refreshing and unsettling. A part of him wonders if she is afraid to want more. Another part wonders if she already has everything she needs. Late one night, after walking her home, Ethan pauses at the bottom of the stairs to her apartment. The building is quiet, the streetlights flickering softly. "I am glad I came back," he says. Emily nods. "I am glad you did too." There is a moment, a fragile one. He almost leans in, almost closes the distance, but something in her expression holds him back, so he lets her go. Inside her apartment, Emily closes the door and presses her forehead lightly against it. Her heart is racing, not from excitement, but from restraint. Every instinct tells her to step forward, to tell him everything, to trust him again. But she has lived long enough with the consequences of trusting too easily. Meanwhile, Ethan returns to his hotel with his mind spinning. He feels connected to Emily in a way that surprises him, and yet he cannot fully reconcile that connection with the life he imagines she must have lived. The quiet, the solitude, the lack of visible attachments. He tells himself there must be a reason she holds back, a history she does not want to share. That assumption settles comfortably into place. It allows him to feel patient, understanding, even generous. And so, without speaking it aloud, both of them agree to continue as they are, close but not crossing, set but not committed. They are standing at the edge of something real. Emily knows exactly what she is protecting. Ethan believes he already understands her, and that difference, subtle and invisible, is quietly setting the stage for a truth that will soon demand to be heard. The reveal does not come loudly. It arrives the way most truths do, quietly, when no one is prepared for it. It happens on a Sunday afternoon. Ethan and Emily are at the local community center, where a small charity bake sale is taking place. Emily volunteered without hesitation when the organizer asked for help. Ethan followed, unsure why he felt the need to be there, only knowing that he did not want to leave her side. Emily moves easily among the tables, greeting familiar faces, handing out change, remembering names. She belongs here, in a way Ethan does not. At one point, she steps away to help in the storage room, leaving Ethan alone near the refreshment table. Two older women stand nearby, speaking in low voices, unaware that he can hear them. "It is nice to see Emily smiling again," one of them says. "Yes," the other replies. "She has always been such a good girl, always careful, always keeping to herself." The first woman sighs. "After everything, I suppose that is not surprising. Losing the only man she ever loved like that." Ethan's attention sharpens. "She never dated anyone else, you know," the woman continues. "People talked, of course, But Emily never gave herself to anyone. She just waited. Or maybe she chose herself. I always admired that. There is a pause. She is stronger than people think, the second woman says softly. Ethan feels as if the air has been pulled from his lungs. Never dated anyone else. Never gave herself to anyone. The words echo in his mind, colliding violently with every assumption he has carried. He turns just as Emily re-enters the room, her expression open, unaware that anything has changed. "Are you all right?" she asks, noticing his face. "Yes," he says quickly, too quickly. "I just need some air." They step outside together. The afternoon sun feels harsher now, brighter, exposing thoughts Ethan would rather keep hidden. "Emily," he says, stopping near the steps, "can I ask you something?" She studies him for a moment, then nods. "Of course." He hesitates. The question feels suddenly heavy, dangerous, but it is already too late to turn back. "Did you ever, after I left, were there others?" Emily understands immediately. Her shoulders stiffen, not in shame, but in something closer to disappointment. "No," she answers calmly. The word hangs between them. "No?" he repeats, as if he did not hear correctly. "No," she says again. "There was no one else." Ethan searches her face, waiting for clarification, for laughter, for a correction. None comes. "You mean you chose not to?" he says. "I mean exactly what I said," Emily replies. "I did not share myself with anyone after you." There is no accusation in her voice, no plea, just truth. Ethan feels a sudden, crushing weight settle in his chest. All the assumptions he made, all the quiet judgments, all the times he thought he understood her life, they collapse in on themselves. "I thought," he begins, then stops. "I know," Emily says gently. "Everyone does." She looks out across the empty parking lot, her gaze steady. People assume a woman alone must be broken, or reckless, or hiding something shameful. She turns back to him. "I was hiding something, but it was not what they thought." Ethan swallows hard. "You waited," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. Emily shakes her head. "No, I lived. I worked. I grew. I just did not give my body where my heart did not belong." The simplicity of it shames him. He had left and built an empire. She had stayed and protected her integrity. "I am sorry," Ethan says finally. "It is not enough." He knows it. She knows it. "Sorry for what?" she asks. "For judging you," he answers. "For assuming you had changed. For thinking I knew your story without ever asking." Emily does not respond right away. "I did not keep this truth for you," she says at last. "I kept it for myself." Ethan nods, tears burning unexpectedly behind his eyes. In that moment, he understands something painful and undeniable. The shock is not that she remained untouched. The shock is realizing how small his understanding of her had been, and how much growing he still has left to do. The days after the truth comes out feel different. Not dramatic, not explosive, just heavy. Emily does not stop seeing Ethan all at once. She simply begins to step back. When he comes by the store, she is polite but distant. When he asks to meet for dinner, she says she is tired. When he calls, she lets the phone ring a little longer before answering. Ethan feels the shift immediately. He wants to explain himself, to undo what he cannot take back. But every sentence he rehearses sounds inadequate the moment he imagines saying it out loud. One evening, he finally speaks. "I did not mean to hurt you," he says, as they stand outside the store after closing. Emily looks at him calmly. "I know." "Then why does it feel like I already lost you?" he asks. She exhales slowly, because knowing something and feeling it are not the same. Ethan takes a step closer. "I was wrong about you, completely wrong." "Yes," she replies, "you were." There is no anger in her voice. That is what unsettles him the most. "You came back with the world in your hands," Emily continues, "and without realizing it, you looked at me as if I was something unfinished, something behind." "That was not my intention," he says. "I know," she repeats, "but it was the result." She meets his eyes. "You did not just misunderstand my past, Ethan. You decided what it meant." The words land hard. Emily turns away, unlocking the door. I need space. Inside, she closes the door quietly, leaning against it for a moment as her chest tightens. Letting him back into her life reopened wounds she worked years to heal. Loving him again would mean risking herself all over. And this time, the risk feels higher. Outside, Ethan stands alone under the dim streetlight. For the first time in years, he feels small. Over the next few days, the town begins to talk. Not maliciously, but inevitably. People notice Ethan around. They notice him leaving the store, walking through familiar streets, sitting alone at the diner where Emily no longer joins him. Someone mentions, casually, that Emily always deserved better. Another says she was foolish to wait so long. Ethan hears it all, and for once, he does not correct anyone. Instead, he listens. He begins to understand how easily success had insulated him, how rarely he had been forced to confront his own blind spots. In boardrooms, mistakes are negotiated. In life, they linger. One afternoon, Ethan approaches Emily again, this time with intention. I want to fix this, he says. Tell me what to do. Emily shakes her head. This is not something you fix. It is something you face. She looks at him steadily. I did not protect myself all these years just to be someone's lesson. The words sting because they are true. Ethan realizes that loving Emily again will require more than regret, more than patience, more than wanting. It will require humility. That night, he lies awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment he assumed instead of asked. Every time he felt generous instead of equal. Every time he believed understanding her was enough. Across town, Emily sits by her window, watching the lights flicker on and off in nearby houses. She tells herself she did the right thing, that protecting her dignity matters more than rekindling an old love. But still, her heart aches. They are both standing at opposite sides of the same truth now. Ethan knows he failed her. Emily knows she cannot carry the weight of his awakening for him. And until one of them chooses differently, the space between them remains, quiet, painful, and unresolved. Ethan does not try to see Emily for several days after that, not because he does not want to, but because he finally understands that words will only make things worse. Apologies spoken too early are often another form of selfishness. They ease the speaker, not the wound. Instead, he watches, he listens. He pays attention to the town in a way he never did before. He learns that the grocery store Emily works at is struggling, that the owner is considering closing by winter, that Emily has quietly been covering extra shifts so the younger employees can keep their hours. No one praises her for it. She never mentions it herself. Ethan also learns about the community center, about how Emily has volunteered there for years, organizing food drives, tutoring children after school, keeping the place alive with consistency rather than money. This time, he does not step in as a savior. He steps in as a supporter. Without attaching his name, Ethan funds repairs for the center's roof through a local contractor. He arranges for the grocery store to receive a reduced supplier rate through a distributor he knows, but he insists it be framed as a regional partnership, not a personal favor. Emily hears about these changes the way everyone else does, through conversations, through quiet relief. She does not connect them to Ethan at first. One evening, she arrives at the community center and finds new shelves installed in the storage room. Strong ones, practical ones, the kind she once mentioned wishing they had. She pauses, her hand resting on the wood. Later that week, the store owner thanks her for staying late, mentioning how things might finally stabilize. Emily smiles, confused but grateful. It is not until she runs into Ethan outside the diner one night that she understands. I heard the center got help, she says carefully. Ethan nods. Yes. You did that. I helped, he corrects, quietly, the way it should have been done. She studies him, searching for pride, for expectation. There is none. I did not do it for you, he adds, and I am not asking for anything in return. Emily looks away, emotions tightening in her chest. Then why? She asks. Because you showed me what leadership actually looks like, Ethan answers, and I realized I have been confusing power with value for a long time. They stand there in silence, the evening air cool around them. I am not trying to win you back, he continues. I am trying to become someone who would not hurt you again. Emily turns to face him fully now. "This does not erase what happened," she says. "I know," Ethan replies, "and I am not asking you to forget it. I am asking you to see what I choose to do with it." For the first time since the reveal, Emily feels something soften. Not trust, not forgiveness, but recognition. She sees effort without performance, change without announcement, and still she does not rush. "If I choose you again," she says quietly, "it will not be because of what you provide. It will be because you meet me as an equal." Ethan nods once. "That is all I want." Emily takes a step back, creating space, but not distance. "I need time," she says. "I will wait," he answers, not as a promise, as a decision. As she walks away, Emily realizes something unexpected. For the first time, Ethan is not chasing her past. He is standing in the present. And that choice, more than any gesture, is what finally gives her pause. Because some apologies are spoken, others are lived, and she is beginning to see which one this is. Time does not rush them. Weeks pass, and the town settles into a quieter rhythm. Summer edges toward fall, and the air begins to carry a hint of coolness in the mornings. Leaves change slowly, almost imperceptibly, the way real change always does. Ethan stays, not as a visitor, not as a benefactor, as a man learning how to belong without leading. He takes a small rental near the edge of town. He eats at the diner without expecting company. He helps at the community center when asked, and steps back when he is not. No announcements, no gestures meant to be seen. Emily notices everything. She notices that he never mentions the help he gave, that he listens more than he speaks, that when people praise him, he redirects the attention to others. She notices how he asks questions now, real ones, and waits for the answers. One evening after closing the store, Emily walks to the old field behind her parents' house. The sky is wide and open, painted in soft shades of orange and blue. She has not been here in years, not since she learned how to protect memories by keeping them still. Ethan is already there, standing by the fence. He does not speak at first, neither does she. They stand side by side, the space between them comfortable, in a way it has not been since they were young. "I kept something for a long time," Emily says finally. Ethan turns to her, attentive. She reaches into her pocket and places the silver bracelet into his hand. The metal catches the fading light. "I did not keep this because I was waiting for you to come back," she says. "I kept it because it reminded me of who I was when I loved without fear." Ethan closes his fingers around it, his throat tightening. "I left thinking success would make me worthy," he says quietly. "I did not realize how much worth I lost along the way." Emily meets his eyes. Worth is not something you earn after leaving. It is something you carry when you stay true. There is no tension now, no test left to pass, only a choice. "I am not asking you to return to the past," Ethan says. "I am asking if you would walk forward with me, as equals, with nothing hidden, with nothing assumed." Emily considers him, the man he was, the man he is becoming. She nods. "Yes," she says, "but only if we choose each other every day, not because of history, not because of sacrifice, because of respect," Ethan finishes. They smile. It is not dramatic. It is real. Months later, the town gathers for a small celebration at the community center. Nothing grand, just music, shared food, familiar faces. Emily moves through the room with quiet confidence. Ethan stands beside her, not in front. When he asks her to marry him, he does not kneel in public. He waits until they are alone, under the same open sky, and offers a simple ring. "I choose you," he says. "Not because you waited, but because you taught me how to see." Emily slips the ring on her finger. "And I choose you," she replies, "because you learned." They marry in the spring, in a small ceremony with no spectacle. The grocery store owner attends. The volunteers from the center attend. Life shows up exactly as it is, and for the first time, it is enough. Because love does not come from wealth. It does not come from sacrifice alone. It comes from humility, from listening, and from choosing not to judge what you do not understand. And that is the truth that changes everything.